Welcome to Orange County Power Players, where we spotlight the personal, professional, and financial success stories of OC's top leaders. Here's your host, Danny Flores.
Welcome back to OC Power Players, where I interview some of the most successful people in Orange County. I'm Danny Flores, your host, and today's honored guest is Daniel Shi, zooming in from Culver City. Daniel's a fintech operator, angel investor, and advisor. An operator at Remitly from early days to IPO at NASDAQ. International expansion in UK, Europe, China, Vietnam, and Australia, and the GM at UK and strategic partnerships and mergers and acquisitions. VC at MX Ventures and Tencent. He has an MBA from Cornell, bachelor's from Claremont McKenna College. Welcome, Daniel.
Thanks, Danny. I'd really like to be on the show.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Do you want to tell us a little bit of what you do and then what it takes to take a company to IPO?
Yeah. No, happy to. Right now I'm angel investing and advising companies. Up until about a year ago, I was at Remitly, and that was a wonderful experience, right? So joined from the early days, 30-person team. Got to see that rocket ship ride all the way up from 30-person to I think like about 3,000. I believe
30 to 3,000?
Yeah, 30 through 3,000. And when I joined, I think revenue was around 17 million for the year. At our last earnings call, I think it just passed 1.3 billion for the year.
Wow.
And then that's revenue, right? That's not like some kind of like hocus pocus, right? Like
right.
Volume number. So part of the team, really proud of what we built. When I was along the way, I got to live in London for a while. We were growing our European business. Started off with just me and our lawyer sitting in this tiny little office, built that team, built that business. Now I think that team is like at least 100 people spread across Europe, maybe more. And then hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue as part of that overall.
What does the business do itself?
Yeah. So Remitly is international payments, remittance payments, right? So our customers, or their customers, or immigrants that have moved to U.S., Canada, Europe, Singapore, Australia, and a bunch of different countries all over the world, UAE as well.
Yeah.
United Arab Emirates, and then they send money back home to 180, I believe, 100 in the neighborhood of 180 countries all over the world. And so you can think of, in its simplest form, it's like international Venmo, right? International Cash App. Be able to
like a Western Union, kind of?
Like Western Union. Western Union was kind of the incumbent brand when we were just getting started. Yeah. And Western Union is known for like kind of their offline agent network. So you can physically go to some place, give them cash, and then like somewhere else, somebody was able to pick up cash. Right. For us, we were founded in 2011, and we were able to ride the mobile wave, right? And so the transition from offline to online to mobile, right? We had a mobile first experience, right? Customers would be able to download our app, create an account, attach a payment method, do know your customer, and then be able to execute a transaction very, very, very quickly, right?
Yeah.
Fast, cheap, good quality of service, coverage all over the world, and then be able to pay into the various payment methods that the customers wanted. And so that was something that strong value proposition from the get-go, extremely strong operating team based out of Seattle, and just a decade plus of execution and compounding good decisions,
right?
And data-driven decision making. So I'm really proud of that team. On one really, really beautiful day in September 2021, I got to go to NASDAQ and see our founders push the button. And this is an important point, which is like most people think it's ringing a bell. So if you list on the New York Stock Exchange, you ring a bell. If you list on the NASDAQ, you push a button, right? And so we pushed the button, and the company was listed, and it was a life-changing day for me, life-changing moment for me. And at that point, I also started angel investing as well. So started to do some angel investing, and that was a catalyst, unlock some more liquidity for me to be able to power that hobby. Long time ago, before Remitly, I was a venture capitalist. I used to work in VC, worked at Amex Ventures. I worked at Tencent, which is a large internet company in China. They both have venture capital arms. And so that was like investing in early stage companies. And so when I had the means to be able to, invest my own capital, that was really, really fun. And it's been a really great, I think of it as a professional hobby, right? For the last couple of years. So
just so that everybody understands what VC investing is it safe to compare it to the Shark Tank on TV?
it can be like
To
that's
a point, right? To
yeah.
a point.
Yeah.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Shark Tank, they're active, right? They're investing to the business because they're going to participate and make the business grow.
Yeah.
VC is more investing kind of on the leaders of the business and giving them the capital so that they make the business grow. Is that
Can be. Although like some VCs, like some VCs, some angels will get very, very involved with the founders, right? Like help them in a number of different ways. But at the end of the day, it's still the founders, it's still the founders that are running the company. I think that's even true for the Shark Tank model.
Right.
But yes, like Shark Tank it has done a lot to popularize the notion of like investing in early stage companies.
Right. Wow. So that's a really exciting career there.
Yeah.
Are you still in with the company Remitly as after it went public?
I stayed for a couple more years, worked on a couple of different things. So after coming back from London, right, COVID happened. That's when we moved back down to Orange County. We had some family. My parents are here. We had my in-laws were in LA, and so it's just great to be closer to family.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. What else? Okay. So I stayed for another couple years. Worked on M&A. We had acquired a company in Israel, and so I helped to merge that company with us. And then I worked at the end. I worked on some stuff with like generative AI.
Okay.
Along the way, I had learned to code, learned some machine learning, learned some AI, learned some Python, data science, and that helped me to have some mental models. And I did all that in 2022. Did that in 2020, early 2022, which in late 2022, right? That's when like DALL-E 2, GPT 3.5 first came out, right? And so that was kind of like the opening salvo in the AI wave.
Right.
At the end, and the last thing I did at Remitly was to be a product manager for our generative AI products for marketing, which was a ton of fun because that was like building AI products at the beginning of that wave. And so, yeah, I got to do a little bit of everything. I was very, very lucky.
Wow, that sounds like super exciting.
Yeah.
So you're probably one of the people that you can say you loved your work and your job where you really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did. It was I like to tell people it was stressful but fun.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that'll keep you on your toes, right? But you're moving the ship. I mean, growing it from 30 people to 3,000. And you got to have like a full-on HR team just hiring full time, basically, to be able to bring that many people on.
Oh yeah. When I joined, I think we had one HR person. I mean, that's the whole team now, right? I think we had 3 people in finance, right? Like that's like probably hundreds now. So yes, I got to see a lot of growth. And right now, yeah.
Now, as you guys were growing, what was your function?
My function was international expansion. So my first job was international expansion. And so Remitly, as you can imagine, it was a payments business that is like, we've got we accept payments in a couple of countries. We disperse payments in a couple of countries. At the beginning, when I first joined, it was 1 send country, and we had just launched our 3rd receive country. Today, I think we have over 20 send countries and then like 180 receive countries, right? And so somewhere in between that beginning stage and like this end stage was a lot of international expansion work, right? To get all the partners, to get all the licenses, to get all the
Right. That's like going to a country and figuring out how to make that connection.
Yeah. Yep. So we worked on I started off working on our China product, which is interesting today given the geopolitics. But to launch our sent to China, especially just because I had some networks in China and contacts in China, having worked at Tencent. So that was the first thing I worked on. But then we also launched Vietnam. I worked on our Australia launch, and then moved to London to work on a European launch. Right. So that was kind of what I did at the beginning.
Wow. Now AI is kind of like the biggest thing right now, right? Yeah. It's supposed to revolutionize everything. And they say that, people are not going to lose their job if they embrace it and learn how to work with it. It's the ones that don't that are going to basically become obsolete.
Yeah.
What do you see that going, and what do you see the opportunities with AI right now?
Oh man, so many, right? so many. I think there's like different ways to break it down. I think there's kind of like is AI coming for our jobs, right? Or is like AI going to create like a new age of abundance? I think there's some threats from AI, but I ultimately suspect that it's going to be something that the future will look very, very different than what we expect. Let me give you an example, right? Actually, two examples I like a lot. One is with ATMs, right? So ATMs, was a technology that was introduced, I think, probably like in the 60s and the 70s, and people were and bank tellers, right? Like it was people were afraid that it was going to destroy like bank tellers. Actually, they were afraid that it was going to destroy bank branches, right? People would just use ATMs. Why would you ever go to the bank to get anything done?
Right.
And what was interesting was what ended up happening was the number of bank teller jobs actually increased over time after the introduction of the ATM. Why? Because it actually dramatically decreased the presence of an ATM actually decreased the cost of having a bank branch itself, right? And so the number of bank branches proliferated, and so therefore the number of bank tellers also increased. Now, the asterisk in the story is that it depressed bank teller pay, right? Time. And so it's like one of those things but this is like the interesting thing about like technology like this, which is like it will drive down costs and actually increase, like it was able to increase the number of units, right? And units of banks. And actually it was able to lead like bank branches into like many, many neighborhoods. Now, starting in the 90s and in the early 2000s, like that trend reversed, and like, there's been a lot written about like financial exclusion because of the closure of bank branches. But like during the run up in the 80s and 90s, right? Like the presence of ATMs and the automating effect of ATMs really like spread financial availability across the US, right? And
right.
Okay, so that's like one interesting example where you have technology that is disruptive and bringing down costs, but then it actually makes availability, and in this case, probably the availability is like intelligence, right? You can make that people, and that could be very, very disruptive. Okay, so example number two that I think about a lot is so if we were to go back 150 years, right, and look at my family, maybe even look at your family, Danny, like everybody would be a farmer, right? Like there was a period, like I think like in 1900, I'm sure this data exists. It's like 90%, 95% of people in America, and probably all over the world, were farmers. Like that was your job, right?
That was before the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah, before or in the midst of the Industrial Revolution, right? But then today, if you zoom out to today, right, like who's like probably only 5% of people are farmers, right? The vast majority were farmers, and now like the vast majority are not farmers.
Right.
But what did everybody do? They did everything else, right? So job creation, once you were able to like kind of free up people to do other more creative things, was incredible. Okay, here's the other thing I think is very, very interesting. If I think about the availability and also the quality of food, and even at the extreme edge, if I think of at the extreme edge, the absolute creativity in terms of food, right? Like if you think about like a 3-star Michelin chef, right?
Right.
And maybe even like, like the most interesting restaurant that you could go to at your in Irvine, right? Like, I'll just think, what's one example? Like go to Irvine Spectrum, right? The quality, even the creativity of like, there's like an Italian restaurant called Enoteca. This is probably better than anything you could get in 1900, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So the abundance of food and even the extreme edge of creativity is so much higher than what we could have had like before automation, right?
Right.
And so like it didn't lead to destruction of creativity. It didn't lead to like destruction of, of food creation. It just led to a complete redistribution. And then at the edge, at the very, very limit, like just like an extreme explosion in creativity. So that's like another example that I think of that is like very, very hopeful for what AI can do. Yeah.
I think from the little bit that I know, the efficiencies that it brings to companies, right? And if the companies can operate more efficient, then they have more resources to R&D, creativity, grow the business, whatever else.
Yeah.
So technically, if you think about it, then your people aren't really losing jobs; they're just switching jobs, perhaps.
Yeah. I do think it does make it may potentially make the old pathways obsolete. So either getting your first job out of college will look very, very different, right? Like kind of how do you advance will feel very, very, very different. And so being able to be flexible as you go through that, I think is going to be really, really important. I do have one thought for you, and I suspect like just giving your podcast, it does focus a lot on like business owners. And this is something that I've been thinking about quite a bit lately in terms of like what is AI for? And you probably heard this a lot, right, Danny? Which is like, hey, we are entrepreneurs or we are like founders that are building a software company for the office of the CFO, Chief Financial Officer, or we're building software for the CMO, the Chief Marketing Officer. We're building software for the CTO, right, Chief Technology Officer. Right. And it's like kind of like, so for CFO, it might be like accounting software, right? Like accounting ledger, treasury payments, things like that.
Right.
For CMO, it's like marketing automation, like buying ads, how to like make more messages, things like that. Right. CTO is like coding software or like whatever.
Right.
And what AI is going to do is like compress all of the org charts at different companies, right? AI is going to like, so instead of a 100-person team in finance, it might be a 10-person team going forward. Instead of like a 30-person team in marketing, it might be a 15-person team, or like that will be like the growth rate of your team, like going forward, the curve instead of going like this might be like this, right? But ultimately it's going to be some kind of smush in terms of the size of the companies.
The footprint, right?
Yeah. But then what's not going to change is the owner, right? The business owner. And one thing that I've like never, or it's very, very hard to find is somebody telling me, hey, we are building software for the office of the CEO, right? The Chief Executive Officer. Like when was the last time you actually heard somebody say like, hey, we're going to build software for the business owner, right? And I think this will be a very, very important reframing because, AI will smush all of the other functions, right? Like therefore, but then what is the durable unit within a business is the principal, right? It's the owner, right? Like, and what is software that will give them super leverage across their entire organizational stack, right? So that's something I think about a lot. I think it's very hard to define because, the next thought that you have is like, well, the owner he's a generalist, right? Like, they don't get into necessarily the details with all of these different things and what is actually like their job to be done. And that's a good question, but it is something that in the age of AI where like everything else feels collapsible, but then at the end of the day, it's the owner who is the ultimate agent, right? Self-agent. What do they get, right? So anyways, that's
because you would think these different C-suite executives still their job is to roll up that information to the CFO, right? Their teams are going to be more efficient in gathering that data and controlling what they have to do. But at the end of the day, it's the data. How they come up with the data is going to be compressed.
And so does it compress all the way even past the CFO all the way up to the owner, right? Like the owner is just like making decisions without a CFO, without a function, right? Or without a CTO, without a CMO. I think that would be pretty interesting, right? Like when like, could it be just like, hey, I'm just gonna have CEO and engineers, right? And there's nothing else, right? Can an organization like run that way?
Right now. So if somebody you hear a lot of the automation bill. If
Yeah.
somebody wanted to get into the AI business and create like a consulting firm, right? Because all these companies, they don't have AI teams yet.
Yeah.
And they need somebody probably from the outside to help them build these automations and create these efficiencies.
Yeah.
What do you think? How would somebody go about doing something like that?
Doing that? Well, I think that actually is a good question, because I think with the AI stuff, what I'm actually seeing is, well, first of all, what I'm seeing is a lot of companies are actually just internally building it, right? Like the AI products, and sometimes they're not even buying like an entire software suite. They're just going to like OpenAI, accessing the models directly and trying to build stuff on top of it, because the intelligence that comes from these LLMs is so high, and then they also build themselves, right? Like, because you can vibe code the interface on top of the models. And so like I was doing that when I was at Remitly at the end. Like I was vibe coding before vibe coding was a word. I was vibe coding up like internal products just myself, right? Like I would have ChatGPT. I would tell it like, hey, I'm trying to build this product. What do I do? Here's the script in Python.
Oh, dang.
By the way, like, here's the API doc for this thing. What's the API call that I should make? And like, right. And then like I would write the code, then I would throw it back in and ask it to like fix it, right? And it would just recursively fix it. And I'm not an engineer by training. I just took a boot camp, right? And that was in 2023, 2024, right? And so 1 to 2 years later, the amount of progress to do that is probably even higher. So to answer your question, like, you know, some of the companies, especially if they have talent that is at all technology curious or like programming curious, like I think they'll be able to build it themselves. So that's one. Now, there's still going to be a lot of companies that like, are going to need help. And if you are interested in that, I actually have an example. I have a friend. He's also in Orange County. His name is Christoph. And he runs he has two businesses. He has like a software consulting business, that he's ran for like, 10 plus years. And he was doing this thing where then he like got curious and built his own AI business, right? A piece of software, and he did it nights and weekends. And he built like an entire full stack. It's called GreetMate. If you look at greetmate.ai, that's their website, and it's like an AI receptionist, right? And you or anyone can go in, and this is amazing. You can put in your website. He'll set up crawlers, read your website, and then create a receptionist phone tree with AI, so that like somebody can call and be like, for example, they could probably do this within like a couple of clicks. You can have an AI agent where somebody calls and is like, hey, Orange County Power Players, I'm interested in booking your podcast, right? And then like an agent would respond like, hey, here's the availability, here's what we're looking for, here's some information, and they could probably just do the entire execution on the phone with an AI agent. Chris built this himself, like just himself, nights and weekends. Okay. And then he put it up there, and like, he has like a self-serve on Stripe, and you can just like go in and book. You can like, you put it on a credit card and pay for it. And he did it nights and weekends, and he's still tinkering with it. And it's probably making like decent money for him. But then what ends up happening is like in the act of building that it's a form of marketing too, right? He's also like having people reach out to him being like, hey, can you come to my company and help advise me on doing it, right? Like, and then build some stuff myself. And I think he's had engagements for that. So to answer your question, like the age-old way of doing like, trying to like land consulting gigs is like, like put out some like research and put out some like, thought leadership and put out some whatever. And maybe it's on LinkedIn or like, email or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But I think like nowadays, like it's going to be people like, like showing, not telling, right? Like literally like I built this myself, right? If I can do this myself, I can show you how to do it.
Right.
And those will be the people that you can trust actually know what they're doing, because they can show you they can do it.
Right. No, that's amazing. Like how you said, you could just ask ChatGPT, how do you do this? And I mean, the answers come out.
The answers come out. Yep. Yeah.
So that's with ChatGPT, that's another interesting theory, is that we used to Google everything, And I hear people that instead of asking Google, you're asking ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to have to do something, or they're going to lose I guess use the people that are using
it. Yeah. I mean, what it'll do is like, this is an interesting thing, because what happened was, what was before Google? Encyclopedias, right? Maybe encyclopedias and the newspaper and all that.
We had those.
And those used to be very large, profitable businesses. But then what happened was like Google came along and search engines, and then Google came along and like completely torched the value of those businesses, and then torched the value overall, and then like captured 100% of whatever was residual, right?
Right.
And it's potentially the same thing with like AI agents, because it will probably be it could be like very, very deflationary to the overall TAM. Now, I think like Google has a lot of advantages, and they've got some, like Gemini is really good. The Gemini app is really good. And so they have like different ways to be able to capture value. But the amount of total equity value that they've been able to create through like kind of the SEO, SEM model, I think will be, AI will be very deflationary to that.
It'll be, but it's just going to challenge it. Yeah.
Challenge it,
That's interesting, because over time something new comes up, right? Something new comes up and just kind of crushes it. Like when the Walmarts and the Costco's came. That's a new model, and all the smaller operators went out. Netflix came, and Blockbuster messed up and didn't buy Netflix for 50 million, and they'll regret it every day of their lives. So it's just like new technology just comes and just changes.
What are you seeing in your business? Are you seeing much like AI being applied to like investments, multifamily, overseas investment?
That's interesting. I don't. Okay, I have one person that I can talk about that she's used AI to create, and she's created, and I don't know what it's called, but she's created herself as an AI agent. So if you make a phone call, you set up a Zoom, you're setting it up, not with her personally, but she's taught this agent to be able to answer all the questions that you may ask as an investor. And she's able to bring in investors and close deals with them just by using that. So it's not taking her time anymore.
And
it's the only person, and she goes everywhere to all the different workshops and boot camps and whatnot, learning this. And she's constantly create efficiencies to be able to raise money easier. And it's amazing. It's amazing because now your footprint widens, but not your time. But as far as like operational wise for us, on the operations side, it's difficult to switch, because you're still dealing with tenants and the operations and property managers, and that's still irreplaceable in a sense, where you actually have to talk to people in face to face. Right. So, but if you can implement it in one way, you can make the businesses grow. It's really amazing in how all of this is coming together. So so as we wrap up our interview, what does your next 6 to 12 months look like?
Actually, this is where it gets very interesting. So I recently started something new, or joined a new company in the influencer marketing space. That's why I'm in Culver City. And so last year, after I left Remitly, I was doing some advising work for lots of different global companies, and one of them was a influencer marketing company in Taiwan called CreatorDB. And so this is a company that has a services business, right, helping brands launch in Asia, right, with influencers, right? So that's one half of the business, and then we also have a data business where we built a database of influencers that we use to empower our services business. And so I was advising the CEO on some like fundraising and international expansion strategy, just because that's what I was doing before. And we were opening up an office, or he wanted to open up an office in the US, start to come after the US market a little bit more, especially for our data product. And so, he asked me, hey, would you be interested in going from advisor to full-time, right? Help me open up this office. And one thing led to another. That's why I'm here in Culver City. Right? We opened up an office here in Culver City. I have a small team of 3. We just had a 4th person join us today. And I'm basically running the same playbook as when I was running the UK office at Remitly. Right. Grow the business, grow the team, keep going.
Yeah. And then jump off and start another one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
No, that's really cool. That's really cool. It's something fun. It's exciting.
Yeah.
Exciting to see, see it grow, right? To put it together and go from 4 or 5 to who knows how many, right?
Yeah.
Sky's the limit.
Totally.
Well, Daniel, thank you so much for coming on today. And if somebody wanted to reach out to you, what would be the best way to get a hold of you?
LinkedIn profile. I'm very responsive on LinkedIn. So if you it's linkedin.com/in/ I think I have Daniel Shy, right? So reach out to me there.
Okay, perfect. Well, Daniel, once again, thanks so much for coming on. And to our followers at ocpowerplayers.com, go to our website and follow us on your favorite channel. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Orange County Power Players. Want to share your success story? Apply to be a guest at ocpowerplayers.com/guest.